Law. The Week in Geek Supplemental.
Yes.
January 27th, 2019. All right, I don't know what we're doing anymore. It's the extra super duper cool content.
Yes, for all of our podcast listeners and those folks on the Edge Radio US, keeping rock and roll great again.
Wow,
Yeah.
You should cut a commercial for them.
I already have.
Oh, you sly dog. You.
Yes. So, all right. Well, hey, Michael Bancroft, you're back for our extra content, and this is kind of just wherever. We're just gonna kind of ramble for a little while.
Well, let's reintroduce them again and tell people where, and tell folks where they can find you on social media and all the great stuff you're doing.
All right, hold on.
Okay. Well, he can talk for himself. He's a grown man.
Well, it depends on who you talk to. It's like most of the co-hosts I've ever worked with. It's like having an extra child. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like working with Davey here.
Hey,
so my co-host Amber, I've worked with for years. She always says she never thought she wanted a second child.
Yeah,
but now she has one.
Nice. All right, you are the co-host of Global Live Media's Beyond Innovation, which airs weekly on Bloomberg Television around the world. Mr. Michael Julian Bancroft, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, guys. There's a lot to talk about in technology, and I know it freaks people out.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good, and I think that's what people don't focus on. And I know you guys, like technology, and
Absolutely.
you also know that it can also go sideways sometimes too.
Yes.
So we were moving in a lot of different directions earlier, and one of the things that I kind of wanted to get into, we started to touch on it, was gaming. And what are your current thoughts on esports right now? Because it seems like we're in the very beginnings of things, but it's really picking up speed fast.
Well, what blows my mind is how much money you can make.
Yeah.
By playing video games.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, you were not allowed to play that much video games. It's like you should be studying. But what's interesting that I've seen though is it's hard to kind of work out what the right solution is, because there are a ton of people playing games, but now there's technology that's looking at applying gamification to things like education. So that I'm starting to see is exceptionally valuable, especially given how connected our kids are, how much technology we use, and it's their biggest form of communication. So that makes sense to me. But on the other side, if you're just purely playing games and you can make more money, it's kind of hard to say no, right?
Yeah.
Because you're seeing these kids come up and be like YouTube stars and making money, and it's like when I was like 18 or 19 earning minimum wage,
lawns,
right? I was like, I wish there was an alternative. I'm not going to lie.
Right.
I mean, the influencer is now a job description and a job title, and
People aspire to be them.
right,
Yeah.
right, and a lot of there's a. What is it? About 20 years old is kind of when they're burning out, Brian?
Yeah,
Like
about 2021
they'll
is,
start,
yeah.
Yeah, because they'll start as young as 14, 15, 16, depending.
I watched a 16-year-old kid today. I happened to be messing around on Twitch, and they had a FIFA tournament going on. A 16-year-old kid smoked a 19-year-old kid. I mean, and it was like, this 16-year-old was like 24th in the ladder. He is now third in the world in FIFA, and it was just destroying this guy. The game ended 5-0.
And what Call of Duty World League was down the street of the Morial Convention Center, and the team that won, none of them were over the age of 21. So they're like, all right, well, we won in New Orleans, but we can't go to Bourbon Street. We'll walk down it, but we can't go any other places.
Yeah.
But
So one of the things that I think is interesting when it comes to esports is the bar to entry, right? And I tell people this all the time. If you wanted to play football as a kid and become a pro NFL footballer, you had to have parents who were pushing you from a kid. You had to make it through high school, not get injured. You had to get a scout to get into college somewhere, and then hopefully that scout picked you up for the pro league. Like, there's so many hurdles there to get into it.
So these hurdles, you just have to make sure you don't break your fingers.
Pretty much. I mean, you need $60 and a controller to play competitive Overwatch. I mean, it's literally that low of a bar. And I mean, I read an article that quoted I think it was one of the VPs for Activision, saying that you talk to kids nowadays, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to be a YouTube streamer. I want to be a Twitch streamer. I want to play video games. it's like they don't want to play sports because.
Well, I do have to say that was the two thing, and I guess this is when you get to a certain age and you do look back or you start to see your friends with kids or you have kids, you start to realize that all that voice in your head that's your parents, and it's like you started to realize that sports was important, and that you should have, because I remember like the friends I still have, and it made me active, and it is that community, and then also schoolwork and actually finishing school and going on and doing a degree and all this kind of stuff. And I can see on the flip side, I have friends that didn't do that and went and started businesses themselves, and they've been very successful. So I think that when it comes to kids and gaming, you do have to be careful,
Right.
and they shouldn't do it too young, and you have to be careful. And this is in regards to screen time. So you have to manage screen time with kids and make sure that they understand and they're responsible about that. And I do believe that, and this again, parents aren't going to like this, but it's the parents' responsibility, because they didn't just pop out going, oh, I'm going to play games 24/7.
Right.
You really do have to ensure that they understand.
Look, I got a 12-year-old. I literally live that every day, and there are times where like I have to go in his room, take his damn phone from him, and I've gone as far as turning off the internet to the house, where it's just like, look, it is time for your ass to go to bed, or you've got to go do something else.
Yeah, and you can do that earning system, right? It's like if you do this, you get an hour of screen time, or there are apps and there are gadgets that can help manage and monitor, and you can actually, if you wanted to go one step further, make it a family responsibility. So when they do something wrong, the entire family gets affected. So then you add in that nice thing that everybody loves is guilt.
That's
so
brilliant.
It is brilliant because you're teaching teamwork and all that
write
stuff.
this down. Hold on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could do it a little bit like boot camp without the bars of soap and socks in the middle of the night, right? So
That reward
That took
system.
a morbid twist.
Yeah. So it's
Sorry.
like, but I'm all about the reward system. I'm like,
Yeah.
that makes
like
sense.
that.
Yeah.
So going back to because I want to get on education, I have a good thread on that. But going back to esports a little bit, it seems like we've got NHL, NBA, or MLB owners that are buying league teams for like Overwatch League, and you've got League of Legends and all this kind of stuff. I mean, is 2019 going to be a breakout year for esports? I mean, is it really going to?
I don't know. I think that it's just going to. I think that what we're seeing though is like we're seeing a lot of fragmentation, and I think that's across the board with technology, with ways of competing, with ways of earning money, and it's like whether it's cryptocurrencies, whether it's esports, all kind. We're just seeing we're not seeing that large one Facebook anymore, or this like breakout. We're seeing multiple companies coming in, multiple technologies, multiple markets, trying to get as much piece of the pie as they possibly can.
Well, some people are actually creating them, because I mean there's a local group here, the IGL, where they do it for scholarships for all across Louisiana. So a lot of the schools, even up north in Louisiana, can all go to one website, and there's a ranking system, and the schools compete, but they made their own platform as
and that's
opposed
smart.
to using something else.
Yeah.
So that way they get all the data. They can deal with the ad revenues by putting, a ticker at the bottom, what have you. And, and I guess unless there's like some codified system and just one like major league gaming unless somebody kind of takes over each sport. But I mean, the way this industry goes, though, people come up with new games. Fortnite's the hot thing right now, but
for now, but we don't know.
Right, 6
Yeah.
months from now, we have no idea what the next hot game will be.
Yeah, well, but it's interesting though. Like if they're entrepreneurial, they would then use that and license it to different regions, and then they would build out a national.
Right.
That's what my brain starts to be like. Oh, that's smart. If they, if they can connect
franchises
them
or
all.
something?
Yeah, or you have that overarching app, and then you have those different regions and verticals that you could then actually. That's very smart business. If they can connect all of them together, and then you can do those small leagues and then go to a champion league.
Right. Yeah, that's the way to build it from a ground level, right?
Yeah.
Because if you build it for a local community and get everybody whipped up, and then you build it for a regional community and then get everybody whipped up, and then it's
like
builds
that
on
beta
itself.
version and that testing, and then you can.
Kind of bringing it back to what we were talking about when we were live on the air was the infrastructure problem, though. So what if you want to put your app somewhere in a place that doesn't get 5G yet, or it's just got crappy coverage to begin with?
Well, it's interesting because it's like you can make apps now quite easily and can get them to market and into the stores, whether it's iOS or Android. But I think that. the usability and from an infrastructure perspective, as you're saying, 5G, and when we start to talk all about those things, I think that especially in the US and in many parts of the world, they've got a long way to go when it comes to infrastructure. But sticking with the sports analogy and what's happening there, it's interesting. I got to chat to the basketball Jeremy Lin, and what was neat about him, you're starting to see these athletes get behind technology companies and developments, and he's invested in this app called Home Court. And what's really cool about this is it's using artificial intelligence, and it's also using computer visioning, and it's kind of combining the two of them, and you can record you shooting the baskets, and then it actually tells you how to improve your techniques. And so then what I was thinking was, imagine once they develop this, what they can do with it, because you could use this for scouting. You could start to connect sporting teams and kind of build out the application itself. But it was really cool because he was saying when he was growing up, he didn't have the money and all of the support to be able to do this training. So this kind of app is kind of getting that ability to everybody and in the palm of their hand.
Nice.
So let me focus on something we brought up a minute ago, is the fragmentation thing. Right, because one of the areas that I absolutely pay a lot of attention to is the podcasting space, right? But we're still, like in esports and other areas in the industry, it's still in this wild west, right? The industry, quote unquote, doesn't understand how to capitalize on it
on
completely.
Podcasts. Yeah, it's very difficult for podcasters to make money on their content. And again, it's like there's so many different ways of doing it. We interviewed this lady that had developed a platform where they were using blockchain technology for podcasters and content creators to ensure the money gets back to them, because and it was very interesting and fascinating, and it was called Castbox. Was the company, and we'd interviewed them in Hong Kong, and I believe they've also got a presence in San Francisco. But it was interesting because they were trying to work that out, because again, everybody's a content creator now, because we have these smartphones in our hands, and technology is so much more readily accessible, and it's cheaper to make content. So what I do believe is that premium content will again rise to the top. So professionals, journalists and broadcasters, I believe that will now, because everyone with a phone, everybody in a basement, everyone is like making content, and there's a lot of noise.
Yes, no, absolutely.
And with the iHeartRadio app, there was a time I was talking to my direct boss, and we were just kind of joking about how podcasts used to be the worst word you could possibly say in radio, because they were like, oh, we don't want them listening to recorded radio shows. We want them listening to the live radio so they can stick around for the commercials. I mean, there's so many rules to live radio, but now we are seriously just at iHeart as a company as a whole, we are pushing the whole podcasting realm, but we're all driving them to the iHeartRadio app. And so we've actually gone and bought other podcasting companies and specific shows so that we have exclusivity to the app for those podcasts.
And it's that ecosystem that you're building. And again, that's where people are going to win. So, and I think that's very smart from iHeartRadio's perspective, because you want to keep it within the family.
Right.
And whether you're listening live or you're listening to the podcasts, because again, it's very difficult. But what is interesting with podcasts, if you have that experience and broadcasting history, you'll know how to integrate content into your podcast without crossing an editorial line. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of headway made, because advertising, again, you don't get the same response from listeners or viewers, whether it's television or radio. So if you're able to authentically, organically integrate your advertisers into your show, that's interesting, and you can make money both from advertising and giving them reusable content for themselves, which would then hopefully get their audience to come back to your networks and social. So it's that network effect. And I think that's where we're going to head if people can work that out really well.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point, too, because the 2019 iHeartRadio Podcast Awards just happened a week or two ago. And if you look at some of the shows that are in there, it's like professional industry, like Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. Dan Carlin was a radio broadcaster at one time, and now he's doing this history deal, and he's getting his advertisement through that. And Lore is Anthony Mankey, I believe the guy's name is, and he is an entertainer. He's an author, and he uses his podcast as a vehicle to promote his stuff.
I think we've kind of sort of had this conversation, though, too, where people with a broadcasting background, they know how to keep the ball rolling in a podcast, where a lot of times we're talking about a lot of noise out there, people just start
random
talking.
stuff.
They won't even introduce them damn selves.
Yeah, it's like,
they don't
who
even,
are we talking to?
Yeah, it's like 5 people start screaming randomly, and it's just like, I don't know what I'm listening to. And then with so much content, if you don't grab somebody in that first 60 seconds, they're gone.
And you have to give them something they didn't know before, and I think that's what people are missing too. Because if you've got something to say, make sure that it's it's meaningful, it's useful, and they can and the listener can take away, because they're spending valuable time.
Right.
And I think that's the thing. It comes down to the story, and so it's very important as a host to have a good storyteller, or but at the same time, useful information. And I find that that's few and far between too lately. It's more commentary than anything else, and not everybody is that interesting, let's be honest. It's very difficult.
It is
to hold people's attention,
right,
especially if you take away all the other senses. So radio, for example, it's just the sound.
Mm-hmm. No, look, I do 2 hours a day on sports, and I mean, I don't have a co-host. I don't have a board op that I can bounce stuff off of.
So you're good at talking to yourself.
Oh yeah, well, I've gotten better.
And answering.
I've gotten better. Well, and the hardest part is, like, you have to lay out your argument, and then you have to almost kind of counter your own argument, and then say, this is where I'm coming from, but here's what I thought is my logic flawed. 260-1280. And then
do you cover all sports?
Yeah. I mean, mostly we stick to New Orleans sports. Pelicans, Saints, all that kind of jazz. But we talk national stuff too. Yeah. But I mean, it's we're locally live here on the air, and so a lot of times that's you've got to bring them in. Just like sometimes Brian and I, I think the best advice we got one time was we would start up the show and we'd be like, man, oh boy, traffic was bad. Oh, the weather. The best advice we ever got was like, shut up. Nobody cares. Get right to the stuff.
Give me something.
Right. You got. They're here. You're going to chase them away if you're sitting here talking about the weather and other ancillary details.
And I know where to go to get the weather, and there's a place I do that, whether it's on an app or I dip into a 24-hour news channel or whatever it is.
Right.
I'm tuning into you guys. If it's sports, to hear the sports, or tech, it's like, hey, tell me some cool stuff, or it's like, what's going on in gaming? Should I still be on Fortnite with my kids, or is it World of Warcraft?
World of Warcraft, yes.
Right. So I thought I thought it was something else for a really long time, and I was like, wow, this thing's trending, and I'm like, oh, that makes way more sense. It's like, it's how many millions of, I was introduced to that. It's like, oh, I get why people get into the vortex and don't come out.
Right.
Yeah. You can get sucked in. I was like, because at the beginning I thought that I didn't get gaming, and I was very skeptical, and I kind of spent some time. I was like, oh, I get it.
Well, there's a lot.
You can go in and never come out.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of games out there that can actually make you better. Like Brian and I, we're old board game gamers too as well. And like I don't like real time strategy stuff. I like the turn based stuff where you actually, it's kind of like playing a game of chess, but your chess piece has a machine gun and a machete, and you just you can work with all that. And I
don't think my parents would agree, but okay.
Right. But
I probably try that argument. Like,
it makes you think differently though. It makes you plot things out, as opposed to, I'm just going to run at you with a gun, and hopefully my instincts and finger trigger is faster than yours.
Yeah, and clearly before we started this show, I was in a raiding guild in World of Warcraft, and it was another job. You
have to be committed. Like, I am not for or against, because I don't want anybody to. I've had some backlash on Twitter in regards to gaming, but you have to commit,
right?
And it is very difficult to stay like good at it and up on those boards, and like it is hard.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dave jokes all the time about the 12-year-olds out there just smoking him.
Ninjas, they got like cat-like reflexes. Yes. It's like, before I even pull the trigger, I'm dead. I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah. Right. But it's the same with technology, though. It's like when you start to talk to these people that are doing amazing things, and it just blows your mind. They're getting younger, faster, smarter, and it's really mind blowing. I mean, we've seen it. It's like robotics. There's huge advancements, gene editing, autonomous vehicles. Like there's just so much happening out there.
So one thing that we didn't touch on, I wanted to kind of get to this, and we were talking about education earlier, is VR and by extension AR. So, what's your thoughts on that right now?
Well, so what's interesting with virtual reality, so people keep saying like, oh, VR and AR, they're going to, become mainstream and it's going to be amazing. We haven't seen it. We have not seen widespread adoption. But what I do think we will see, virtual reality is a great tool for training.
Right.
So for employers to simulate training, and it's going and it can be accurate and real world examples. I see great applications with that. So I think we're going to start to see more of that. It's interesting. I saw I think it was an American airline, Alaskan Airlines, they're testing for their first class passengers virtual reality headsets.
Okay.
So imagine, just picture this.
All right.
You're going down to you go into the bathroom and you look to the left and the right, and there's people with these massive goggles on their head going, like kind of like looking around and grasping at stuff. It's like, I think it's ludicrous. I think it's crazy. But they're testing it. I was in a theme park in Hong Kong at the end of last year, and one of the roller coasters had the Samsung headgear.
Yeah.
Every single person on the roller coaster, we sat on the roller coaster, everyone got a headset, and we went, and it was a roller coaster on the side of a mountain, but we had the goggles on, and it wasn't augmented reality yet. Like, so I could turn and it would simulate if I was turning to the left and the person was on my left, there was a person there, but it wasn't the actual person.
Okay.
So I imagine that would be really cool when it gets to that. But it still kind of simulated the roller coaster, and it was crazy. The picture quality and what they did, and you really felt it. But it was the most bizarre experience because you actually, if you took the headset off, you're on the side of a mountain on a roller coaster going around crazy, and I'm wondering how many headsets have they lost, like all of these things.
Yeah,
and like,
it's always you get on the roller coaster, take off your hats, take off your
yeah,
glasses.
and they're like, put on this expensive headgear
Right.
for virtual reality. And then I'm thinking, what about the poor people that have just been told, like every single ride, you have to go up and down and secure this to someone's head and then take it off afterwards.
Wow.
And I'm thinking of all these things. And of course, everyone else is like, this is amazing. We're going to show it. And I'm all like, practically, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Why would anyone do this?
Yeah, how many people have worn this before me? Am I going to get a rash?
I was
on
thinking
my
about that
forehead?
too, because it's
Yeah.
like it's stuck in you, and you had the foam on your head, and I was thinking about all these things. I'm like, gross, and I'm all like, but of course, like
Get some hand sanitizer.
this is
Yeah.
cool though. If you think about it, I'm doing virtual reality on the side of a mountain on
Yeah.
a roller coaster. But no, I couldn't. I was like thinking of all those things.
Are you a roller coaster guy?
I am. I'm
Okay.
terrified of heights, but I love them.
Yes,
It's
they're
the most bizarre thing. I'm terrified of horror movies, but I'll sit through every single one.
No.
I'll also make sure that it's at 1 a.m., no one's coming home, and it's a big house, and then I'll think of how many ways people can get it. I am very twisted like that. So if you love roller coasters, it's one of the best ones I've ever been on. It wasn't the one with the virtual reality headset, because I think that they would lose every single one. But there's one where your legs are dangling and you go upside down and twisted, and as it flicks out on one side, it kind of feels like you're just going to keep going into the ocean.
Nice.
It's wicked
Wow.
/ terrifying.
They got this one called the Rip and Rocket in Orlando, Florida, in Universal Studios. It's basically a straight drop, and they literally put you in there, and it's crazy. It's a straight drop, and I forgot how fast it goes, but I've read it like 20 times, and I love it.
It's the best. Well, so I'm going to give them. It is a good theme park, Ocean Park in Hong Kong. If you ever go, it's totally worth it. I'm a grown ass adult, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And I took my co-host, who no one would think, and he loved it too.
No, that's cool. The reason I asked is I'm not a fan of roller coasters myself, but I mean, I'd really be tempted to have a virtual reality headset, and experience that.
It's terrifying because it heightens everything that you imagine in your fears because you don't know anything that's coming.
What was that place we went to up the laser tag that had the VR headsets where you were you got in an elevator and it opened up and you walked out and they made you try to walk on this thing. I knew fully I knew there was no way I could possibly fall, but
It doesn't matter, you think.
I was
Yeah.
terrified.
Yeah,
I was
it's
terrified.
like that ridiculous Bird Box on Netflix, and everyone starts walking around with the blindfolds. It's
Right.
like, it's just not smart. Don't cover your eyes. It just doesn't, no matter what circumstance.
Hashtag Bird Box Challenge.
Right.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Everybody, I thought the film was great. I love Netflix. We've been going strong for years. But however, don't do the Bird Box Challenge. It's like the Tide
hashtag
one.
Tide Pods.
Yeah, don't. I was just about to say, I was going into again, Tide Pods trending online. Don't do that either. It's not good. Don't put anything in your mouth that's not edible. Just don't do it.
Didn't you drive here last week on the Bird Box Challenge?
No,
Right?
I would never do something that childish or ridiculously crazy.
Oh man!
I'm a parent. I have to set a good example for my children.
I've seen you setting that example before. So, VR, AR, I mean, I've watched some really great demos from an educational point of view. HoloLens, right? They had a Boeing engineer like pulling open an engine.
Yeah, so this is the thing. So again, if you think about the education system and you think about how much it costs to go on field excursions and all that kind of thing, again, from a practical perspective, if I'm in the classroom and I have, 30 kids and I can take them to see, I can go to the Louvre in Paris and I can see the Mona Lisa, but I'm in New Orleans.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So it's like it's making the world and education accessible to everyone. And I think that's really interesting. And as technology develops, the price will come down. It'll be more accessible. We'll see this because, again, we've seen this in classrooms. Like, as you said, people are using iPads and we're seeing them as part of the classroom and technology. So eventually we'll see, maybe AR and I think VR headsets before. Augmented reality, I think, is the next step. And they need a lot more development with that. And there's really cool applications with augmented reality as well.
Yeah. Now I'm waiting for the holodeck basically to show up, right? Because I could just see it where you have some sort of maybe like a maze, like a laser tag sort of arena, and there's like these open doorways. Well, once you put the headset on, oh, that's a closed doorway, and you have to hack this panel with your special whatever skills, and you've got a block of wood, but it's a laser rifle,
It's
and
a scary world.
Yeah, no. Sorry.
I was like, that's all. Like, I was just happy to see the Mona Lisa.
Right?
I was like, wow.
Oh, come on.
You should be developing the games.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I never understood about the holodeck was kind of it sort of got answered in Ready Player One, where it's like, how do they keep walking around in these giant made up things in the holodeck in Star Trek?
Are we a yes for Ready Player One fans?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I like the book, even though it was written poorly. I appreciate it is
Such a jerk.
What? It's true.
Snob.
I mean, he likes lists. It's terrible. And then you got the movie, which I understood the changes from the book. I was totally cool with that.
Yeah.
Right. And it's full of Easter eggs, but it should be because that's kind of the whole point.
Right.
Yes. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, I watched it.
But have you read the book though?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
He doesn't. We already
that's
established
right.
this.
We
Yeah.
established
I can't
that
say
already.
if my parents were listening, they'd be so mad, and they were like, all of that education down the toilet. But I read a lot, but it's more like the top, like the leading paragraphs of news. Like I constantly scan like 500 emails a day of news from around the world.
Right.
So it's very difficult for me to sit down and read an entire book.
Right.
I actually tried. I'm going to be very honest. I tried
Right.
at Christmas when I was home, and I read 20 pages in one sitting, and I thought it was the best thing I'd ever done in years.
No.
And I enjoyed it, and I love reading, but it's very hard for me to focus on one specific storyline, and because I'm used to doing 30 things at once, and if I'm watching television, I'm on the phone, texting, tweeting, typing something, and doing research at the same time.
Right.
So it's very difficult for me.
So, I mean, is it Ready Player One? Is because it's maybe frivolous and just entertainment? That
I didn't fully comprehend the what they were trying to achieve with the storyline or where, because I get there was a lot of I liked it from like the possibilities of where we could go and what could happen and stuff, but I didn't fully. I thought it was too kind of entertainment-y.
Well,
it wasn't as close as I would have liked.
In the book though, and this is something that I really loved about it, and you've already kind of talked about it, was the Oasis was something that started off as like free education. So you would get a free Oasis set, and you could actually go to the
school.
Louvre, and you'd go to school, and they had like basic schools that you would just.
But they
go
took it to an extreme and scared the out of everyone.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But
So I didn't like that. It's kind of like that
Yeah, they got a little preachy.
Yeah, it was a little too much for me.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, to a degree, like in the book where they're really the preachiness comes into having this evil, corporation that wants to overhaul the entire
They always
Oasis.
blame the guys that make the money.
Right. Yeah, well, right.
It's in fairness, those are the people that also stimulate the economy. Just saying.
True. No, and that's
They
fine.
innovate, right?
But I mean, the Oasis itself, in the book, is this established, infrastructure that people do work every day. I mean, Parsifal, the hero, his mom worked in the Oasis, and had a job, and then she'd come out and spend time with him, when he was growing up until she died, because it's really rough in this dystopian future.
It's very disturbing.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, and then kids are watching this, and you're like, guys, don't worry, this won't happen.
Yeah. Oh, no, well, I mean, okay. Speaking of
what could happen, they're like, dun dun dun.
What could
Speaking
happen,
of technology that will take over the world.
So you brought up earlier autonomous cars.
Yes.
And of course, at CES, we saw the beginning of the robotic apocalypse when a autonomous car took out a robot.
Nice.
Yes, they're
Good on
attacking
that
themselves. Where are we at in this whole robo-apocalypse scenario, Michael?
Okay, so it depends on which camp you're in. It's like, and this is all tied in with artificial intelligence, robots, autonomous vehicles, and hacking and security. Okay, so it can make our lives easier. It can, reduce congestion on the roads. It can be safer and all these things. There have to be protocols in place, education. There needs to be, laws and regulations and all this kind of stuff. And innovation and technology, can't advance if we go into the fear camp.
Right.
And so that's the part I would say first. Obviously, it is horrifying when accidents happen, and we saw that last year where there was a death caused by an autonomous vehicle. Having said that, what autonomous vehicles could do to bring down the fatality rate on our roads?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, humans cause more deaths.
Correct. And so that's what we have to think about. And you can't just suddenly wake up one day and we have autonomous vehicles. So the actual implementation, the actual testing, all of that has to occur first. And it's very unfortunate with technology. There could be accidents, but I think it's really cool where we're getting to, where vehicles now have technologies that can identify all of their surroundings and kind of maneuver and respond in real time. We're seeing autonomous components or parts of it become autonomous. So self-flying helicopters and all of this kind of stuff. So I think it's an exciting time. And I think that there's technology for good, and we have to look at that, and we have to ensure that, we focus on that.
Isn't there, there's a restaurant in like Hong Kong or somewhere where they have disabled people who are actually manning the robots that are serving patrons in the restaurant?
Yeah, you
That's
didn't see
cool.
that? Yeah, they're
Yeah.
using some sort of VR type headset where they're in a hospital bed, but they're controlling this robot that is
At the restaurant,
Yeah,
so it's
that's
serving
cool.
them. Yeah, I mean, there's so many possibilities. But I mean, at some point too, if we use the Oasis example, where you sit at home, you get your own autonomous drone that can walk the streets to go get your groceries, and if it gets hit by an autonomous car, no biggie. I was in my VR set, so.
so
But then I then go to the next one. I was like, well, okay, who's liable then? The robot company or the car company? And then who's the insurance? And
we'll
I
leave
get
that to
into
the
this
lawyers.
big, I get into this big, but it's interesting. Like when it comes to robots, if you guys like that, there's a hotel in Japan that it's completely run by robots. Dinosaur robots.
Really?
Dinosaur
Yes.
robots. And then when you go into the room, there's individual robots that help you control the room and all of that stuff. And then if you go to put stuff in a security box, there's a robotic arm, and there's cool stuff like that. And I think that's a really neat. I mean, I think it'd be cool to check in with Tyrannosaurus Rex or something.
It would be.
So we already had the whole control your robot and do your things with Bruce Willis and Surrogates.
We did, yes.
Yes. So
It's possible. It's there.
yeah, no,
Well,
it's there.
the robots, I think a lot of people are familiar with Sophia from Hansen Robotics. So David Hansen. So Sophia was taken. They took her to the UN, and she's also been on Jimmy Fallon, and that you can look up yourself. It's a little creepy with him looking like he's going to kiss the robot, whatever. Again, different thoughts depending on who you are. I think it was a little weird. But what's neat about that for the robotics, where it's like trying to incorporate personality. And I think that's also our next stage when it comes to robotics. And we're going to see, we're going to be more accepting, and we're going to incorporate them in. We're going to see that personal kind of personalization of robots, and really start to interact with them, in that home assistance kind of area. And I think, again, like as you were saying with the people with disabilities controlling the robots,
right.
Think about it if you have a disability and you need help around the home. So and just think of like simple automation and connected devices in the home. So like my mum has difficulty with mobility. We've got her a Google Home, and she can turn the lights off by voice command, and
right.
she can check and do things. It's like, so I see that there's huge possibility for the elderly and really helping us. So there is positive. Just be careful when it comes to connecting your devices, and you don't want the robots to take over.
Right.
But like,
that's why I still use the clapper at my house.
Yeah.
So I feel like that one can still be hacked.
Yeah.
It's connected somehow.
It reminds me, though, because before the show we were talking, and I told you I did a lot of video conferencing stuff. And telemedicine is huge. It's blowing up a whole lot. I mean, and incorporating that in with home assistance, it seems just kind of a win-win, right? I mean,
yeah. On-call health. We spoke to this company, On-Call Health, and this is neat. You can book appointments with doctors and nurses, and they can come to your office or home. So you think about how much pressure it's going to take off the healthcare system for like regular checkups and stuff. So people that actually need to be seen to in hospitals and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a neat, easy to use, very convenient service, and we're going to see more and more of that.
Cool. Now, we were talking earlier about the vehicles, right? Transportation. What do you think about Elon Musk and like his subway type stuff?
So Elon Musk, what I love Elon Musk because he wants to go to space.
Okay.
I love space. So I love space and I love water. So anyone that's exploring either, I'm all like, that's great. Again, if you think about it, it's like where else are you going to do? So you're congested, the roads. It's like, where else? You're either up or down.
Yeah. Okay.
What are your choices?
Right.
So it's like subway tunneling. I mean, I also just think it's cool. Like have you seen the drill?
Pretty sure I've seen
It's
pictures
a
of it.
big
Yeah.
drill in the hole. It's kind of cool. Again, from a technology, I'm like, that's wicked.
Right.
You just made a massive hole in the ground, and now you're gonna do like hyperloops, and you're gonna like do subways and tunnels, and it's just like.
But then they're going to find dragons that have been buried underground for centuries, and then we're
gonna get killed by the dinosaurs or the robots. Okay, well.
Right.
I saw that very quickly where that was going.
Yeah.
So then we're and is that your segue into gene editing, and then we can bring the dinosaurs back, and then.
Well, we always know where that ends. That never ends well. Don't bring back apex predators. Just don't.
They're trying to turn chickens into dinosaurs right now.
Well, they have a lot of avian DNA in them.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I like the fact that they keep showing us pictures that dinosaurs might have actually had feathers as opposed to like reptile skin.
Well, I don't want to freak you out, but speaking of gene editing, there is a company we spoke to that are paying people to sequence their genomes.
What?
And so the idea then is to have as much research and data available, because if you use artificial intelligence and algorithms to try and work out solutions for medical purposes. But we also spoke to a guy that wanted to log all of the animal species. And so obviously some of those would end up being extinct. But if you've got them all logged, the idea, obviously, he was saying that, possibly, if we have it all, and I'm like, are we looking at Jurassic Park? And he's like, maybe. Like, we could bring them back and don't
they have like those Ark vaults where they got all these plant seeds and all those things?
The heirloom seeds.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. It's like, I was surprised of just how much isn't logged, and a lot of animals and species are becoming extinct or are extinct, and there's no records of them because it's very expensive, and the research and all that kind of stuff. So, and again, if you think about it from a human perspective, how much money it would take to log and create a database, and then work out the algorithms to pull the right data to be able to help with, working out medicines and all of that kind of stuff. So it's very expensive, but it is interesting that if you have, again, the right foundation, the right technology, the right infrastructure, once that is all kind of, what else can we do with it?
Right.
Afterwards?
Well, and,
I didn't want to freak anybody out, but it's like we've got Jurassic Park, we've got the tunneling, we've got the robots, we've got Oasis happening.
And this all started with an abacus. Isn't that great?
Yes.
It all started with the abacus.
Well, and of course, I guess we have to kind of talk about it is, there's the fear element that we talked about earlier, and of course the change. People are definitely afraid of change, and like, how do we not have a Gattaca sort of situation, right?
So it's and every single person that I've ever interviewed in regards to technology, whether it's healthcare, data, whatever it is, it's education. Right. So it comes down to education. And then, of course, it's the checks and balances. And it's interesting. So speaking of Elon Musk, he co-founded a company, OpenAI, and the idea is artificial intelligence for good. And so those kinds of organizations, I think, are extremely important. And also government, where does government play a role? And I know sometimes that can be a dirty word for people, but, we have certain, infrastructure for checks and balances for people. So you would hope that, we are focusing and looking at, what are the do's and don'ts and regulations. And I think that's exceptionally important. And also now that we live in a global economy, we have to look at every region, every country, and then how we work together for it, because you can't just have countries now working in silos. As we've seen, again, we don't need to get into politics, but technology knows no bounds.
Yeah.
They don't know countries. They don't know. It's so we have to be very mindful. So it's education, it's regulations, it's it's making sure that people are held accountable, and it's used appropriately.
Yeah, no, definitely,
because it can go sideways very fast.
Right.
Because just take gene editing for example, and it stirs up a lot of emotion with people. And we've talked about this before the show, and we saw the controversy with the Chinese researcher who created these babies, and
HIV-resistant babies.
Exactly,
yes.
And so obviously people were in uproar because he didn't tell everybody what he was, which is fair. Like, you should, again, checks and balances. But if you think about what he claims to have done,
right? So
he had a mother and a father, and one had HIV. So when they created the babies, they didn't have the HIV in them. So think of the possibility of what you could cure. So it's a step forward for curing diseases that we once weren't able to cure. So if you think about anyone that that has had any kind of disease, incurable disease, what toll that took on you, imagine if we had a cure.
Yeah.
Imagine what that means. And so that's really cool.
Right. No, definitely. It's just...
Yeah. I mean, I guess you think like somebody, a scientist or somebody who's working in that field, they're not really thinking of the ramifications of it. They're looking at the end goal. This is what I want to accomplish. This is what I've done to do that.
This is the problem.
Right. And so then it's like, you maybe bring it to market or to whomever, and then it's like, okay, this is going to open up a Pandora's box. Before we put this to market, maybe,
But think about what's a common Alzheimer's is a perfect one. We spoke to Oprah Technology, this founder and CEO, and they're using nanotechnology and stem cells. They're taking stem cells out of the brain, editing them, and putting them back in.
Wow.
And the idea and to try and edit and change them to be able to help, obviously, in the long term, is to try and cure things like Alzheimer's. So again, that doesn't seem to stir up as much controversy as opposed to playing around with an embryo.
Right.
Well, but
we're kind of editing.
Yeah.
Our genetic makeup, are we not?
Well, to a degree, yeah. I mean, I guess.
So I guess where's the line? So it's like you're okay with Alzheimer's, but you're not with an embryo and an HIV.
Right. Well, I guess the line really gets blurry when you talk about the fact that people can get these CRISPR gene editors and stuff, and they're doing stuff in their garage. I mean, you literally have the scientist guy, and I forget the guy's name, but he's injecting himself with, I'm going to try this next thing, and
I do have a couple of crazy
stories. Superheroes. That's where they come from.
That's where I was going. I was like, and that's how we get all of the Marvel characters.
Nice.
But I was like, and I think everybody listening wants to be one. So I think it's a tough one. It's with anything. Again, you come back to regulation, checks and balances, and education.
All right.
It sounds simple, but I mean, they're there for a reason.
Right. All right. So, are constantly following technology, and what do you think the trends are for 2019? Where do you think we're going to end up by the end of 2019, technology-wise?
So I think that we're going to see just progression and bigger steps of progression in certain fields. So I do believe that we're going to see more in Internet of Things and connected devices, and currently they work in isolation within whatever the ecosystems they are. So if it's a Fitbit or whatever, I do think that we're going to see Internet of Things and devices starting to get connected more to each other outside of their closed-off ecosystems. And I think that that's going to set the stage and pave the way for smart cities. And I think that's really cool, because if you think of it again, like think of how many times you've gone out on your street and like your garbage can hasn't been emptied, or it's more full one week than another. Imagine if it had sensors in it, and then it could tell the local government, and they can track that data, and then they can also work out cost effectively what routes to take and when to empty it. And then again, think about it from like a practical perspective for traffic lights. So if there's going to be certain congestion on certain days and certain times, and if there's like, if there's the boycott on the Super Bowl, and if that regularly happens every year at the same time, but like, there's really cool examples. It's like something as simple as, have you ever gone to a vending machine and your favorite thing isn't there because they only come out once a week or once every 2 weeks to fill the vending machine? Imagine if it had smart sensors. So whoever's filling that vending machine will know that this one more than the other will come out more regularly, semi-regularly, whatever it is. So I think we're going to see that with the Internet of Things. I think we're going to see leaps and bounds in artificial intelligence, people trying to work out better algorithms to pull data that's useful and use it in practical senses. I think that we're going to see a lot more in robotics and voice assistants. There's a lot more in voice assistants that's going to happen. We've seen at the basics with Google Home, and I shouldn't say basic, it's very complicated what they've been able to do, but I mean, it's been adopted by a wide market. So, it's like Alexa, and we're going to see more companies and more products adapt and build on using Alexa and using that Google Home as opposed to building their own. So I think that we're going to see more interoperability. It's a big word. I didn't know if I was going to get it out.
There you go.
But you see, I was building up to it. I was like, and I did it. Thank you.
No, that's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
English is not my first language. It's Australian.
Nice. No, that's good stuff, man. All right. Well, once again, where can folks find you, keep up with all the tech stuff that you're into out there?
So the show, you can check out Beyond Innovation on beyondinnovation.tv, and there's all the social handles, and you can see clips and everything. You can catch it on Bloomberg every week. I do a radio show on SiriusXM in the US and Canada. It's called The Feed. My co-host is far smarter than me. You want to listen to her, Amber Mack. And then you can check me out on social, Bancroft80 on Twitter, and then Instagram and Facebook. I'm always... I love to interact with people even when I don't agree with them. I'm like, sure, you're probably right. I'm sorry. It's usually what I say. It's like, okay, fair point.
No, that's great stuff. But Michael, we so appreciate you stopping by and giving us this just kind of technological insight for 2019 and where we are. It's an incredible time to be alive right now.
Yeah, it's scary and incredible.
Yes.
I mean, so at some point, somebody's got to like just sit the scientists down and say, all right, we all got to work towards one goal at one time. Because, I mean, how much does the market really kind of dictate where we go from here, though, too? Because if people don't put the money into that research, because it might not have a more cost-effective thing.
Everybody's
outcome.
Always looking for the next best and big thing.
Yep.
There we go. All right, Brian, I guess, I don't know.
No, this is it. So this is the end of the TWIG supplemental episode. Enjoy. Thanks for joining us.
You are welcome.